All right. And happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts. And today, the only host, Anthony Ihrig, has the week off, and he's up traveling somewhere far up north, a town I did not recognize. I had to look it up on a map. It's way up there. That's all I gotta say. And but I'm happy to be here. Today we are being joined by Cliff Eberhardt from his home in Western Massachusetts. Yay! And we're so happy to have you here, Cliff, one of my favorites. And it looks like folks are joining the party. Chris here, he is on the road but listening. Thanks, Chris. And Gary, happy Friday from St. Michael. Iced tea for now. All right. And Connie from Richfield and Joe from South Minneapolis, keeping company with Uncle Jack Daniels. All right. Well, I am keeping company with some sociable cider works, some a local cidery here in Minneapolis, and this is a fancy one. It's infused with lime and ginger, so it's very summery and refreshing. So that's what I'm enjoying today. Cliff, are you enjoying any kind of beverage on your Friday?
Straight
Water.
vodka. No, it's water.
I was like, wow, no judgments here. On Fridays, we say
No, I
anything
can't.
goes.
I cannot do anything like that during the day, or
Fall
I'm
asleep.
just, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, yeah. Looks like Chris says his wife really likes. I'm assuming he's talking about Cliff's music, and Carol from
Shoshay.
Eastern Massachusetts.
Yes,
Yeah,
she's a
so
friend. Hi,
awesome. Well, hi,
Carol.
Carol. Welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. If you are new to the show, this is the show where we invite different guest artists to revisit old records. We listen to songs, talk about the recording, and answer your questions live. And again, this is a party, this is happy hour. So feel free to just share comments, questions, any of that. There with us. And Carol says, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, definitely tell us where you're tuned in from, if you're drinking anything on your Friday, if you're just hanging out, whatever you're up to. We would just want to hear from you. This is our weekly check-in. And this week, I'm so excited that Cliff, that you have been on my list of people I've been wanting to have on the show pretty much since we started it, and we finally made it happen.
Yeah,
Uh, so for
and I'm
folks,
home,
I
which is
know,
odd.
which is cool that that is odd because there's a time where we were all at home all the
Right.
time, and it's so wonderful now you are getting back on the road and playing music and. But for folks who maybe are less familiar with your music, I know you have some fans who are tuned in today, but for folks who maybe aren't familiar, maybe you can give us the little 2-minute bio of like your origin story. Where did you come from? How did you start playing music? And maybe in particular where this record fits in?
Well, I come from the main line outside of Philadelphia, a little town called Berwyn, and there was a club in Bryn Mawr right down the street where I was born that had singer-songwriters. So I started going there when I was like 13 and saw James Taylor and Buddy Guy and Chris Smither and everybody, Howlin' Wolf, James Taylor, the whole Taylor family, Randy Newman, just everybody. And I got the urge at that point that that's really what I wanted to do. So I got very well educated. Joni Mitchell, I saw Joni Mitchell for 50 cents.
That's amazing.
When I saw James Taylor, it was right before his first album came out on Apple. My brother had read that the Beatles had signed him, so we went to the club that night, and there were only 4 people in the club besides James. And he came out and pushed the microphones away and just played for us, which was pretty cool.
Oh, that's amazing. And so you knew you wanted to do music, and were you already playing music by that
Yeah, I
time?
started playing guitar when I was like 4 or 5,
Hmm.
and by the time I was 14, I was performing already.
Hmm.
I started performing when I was 11, I think.
And what kind of tunes were you playing when when you started playing out?
Well, I started playing with my 2 older brothers, and we did like Kingston Trio songs, and
Hmm.
and my dad taught us a lot of Tom Lehrer songs, so we didn't go over very well in the churches.
Like Vatican Rag and stuff.
I know we did the old dope peddler.
Ah.
That was our big one. We didn't know what the hell we were singing about.
Oh, that's funny.
But
And
I started writing songs when I was really young. I started
mhm.
writing when I was like 12 or 13. I,
and
s- I, I was looking at a record jacket. My dad had built a stereo when we were kids. And I said, "What are these names next to the songs?" He says, "Those are the fellas that wrote the songs. They get paid for that." I was like, "Well, that sounds like my job."
that's awesome. So um, grew up again outside of Philadelphia, hearing
Yeah.
these acts, knowing you wanted to play. You were already playing some music. So like, how did you jump from playing around town, playing those Tom Lehrer songs at the churches, to doing what you do now? Was New York the next stop, or was that
No,
a few stops
Carbondale,
down the
Illinois.
road?
Carbondale, Illinois was the next stop. My
Hmm.
girlfriend was going to graduate school there, so I moved there. And there were a bunch of clubs there, and they had great. I mean, that's where Sean Colvin was. We ended up singing together for years, and Jim Bruno and Big Twist and the Mellow Fellows, Minnie Riperton. So it was a really cool music scene in that little town. And I played 4 or 5 times a week. And then disco came out, and all the clubs turned into discotheques. And I had to get a job in a masking tape factory. So then I moved to New York.
So masking tape is what drove you to
I
New
just,
York.
I went to Colorado for a little bit, but I was playing bars, and they wanted me to play more covers than originals. And I really wanted to be, my deal was not to get a record deal. I wanted to get a publishing deal. So I heard about this place called Cornelius Street Cafe that every Monday night they had a group of people that got together and played new songs for each other. I read an article in the New York Times about it. So I moved to New York just because of that group. And it ended up being, Maggie Roach and David Massengill, Lucy Kaplansky, and Jack Hardy, and a whole bunch of people that I ended up being lifelong friends with. So,
Very
I
cool.
mean, Lucy was one of the first people I met when I moved to New York.
And back catalog folks will remember we had Lucy on the show not too long ago, maybe a month or two back. So that was a real treat. And speaking of New York, it looks like Anne's tuned in from New York,
Hi,
and
Anne, who she used to
and
live up here.
oh, excellent! It's nice to see old friends, and and do let us know where you are tuned in from. We have a question actually from Joni saying, "Did you and Sean ever write music together or record anything together?"
I have a lot of live shows of her and me together. We never wrote anything together. She wasn't writing back then,
Hmm.
but we did a ton of shows together, and I have many, many, many cassette tapes of. And she sang on my first record. She sang on the song White Lightning. that you can see on YouTube that we did as a duet.
Excellent. Well, speaking of older music, again, the point of today's show is to revisit old records. And the one that you picked for us to feature today is your album, The High Above and the Down Below, which came out in 2007 on Red House
Oh,
Records.
Jesus.
I know. I can't believe it was even that long ago. It feels like it was
Yeah.
yesterday. So why don't you tell us where this album kind of fits in? Because you have a big catalog of music. So tell us kind of what set the stage for this particular record.
Well, this was my fourth record for Red House. I was on Windham Hill before that in Shanakey. And Eric Paltanimi, who was running Red House at the time, really wanted me to make a record out in Minneapolis. So he took on the job of producer. And basically what he did was he put me together with a lot of really good players. And we ended up recording this album live. I thought we were rehearsing for 2 days. And when it was done, Eric said, well, that record's done. I was like, wait a minute, I haven't done the vocals yet. He goes, nope, we're done. So there's a lot of kind of urgency on it that I don't really get from studio recordings. It's really good. It's one of my favorite records.
Awesome. Well, it's one of my favorite records. I was really excited you because I think a lot of folks assume that me or my regular co-host Tony like ask artists to talk about a certain record, but we always let the artist pick the album and the songs, which for me is just as revealing as the music itself, is to find out what artists like of their back catalog. And I was so happy you chose this one because it's one of my favorites, partly because of what you're talking about, just the delivery and the tightness and the energy that's present, which I think comes from a live recording. This first track you picked is the title track. Is there anything you want to say about this song before we take a listen?
Well, I wrote it. The true story is I wrote it when I left home. I was on tour, and I only brought one book with me, and it was Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. And I would read like a chapter 3 times in a row, go, huh? And so the only other book in the hotel room was the Gideon's Bible. So it's kind of a mashup between Stephen Hawking and God. So
I love that. That's the best intro ever, a mashup between Stephen Hawking and God. Well, we are going to enjoy this together. This is, we disappeared. Let's see if we can get us back. There we are. This is The High Above and the Down Below here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Come a midnight train, and it calls your name. Can't you hear that whistle blow? Better pack your bags, 'cause you leave tonight for the high above and the down below, yes. No east or west, no right or left, it's up to chance just where we go. 'Cause the go-between is a sliding machine in the high above and the down below. Lost in the fog, check the captain's log, keep her steady as she goes. As the river Styx, all abandoned ship for the high above and the down below. No one ever knows when it's time to go. Some people want to clear. Don't waste your time on nursery rhymes. Try living while you're here. stops twice, but it's all one price for the high above and the down below. For the high above and the down below. For the high above and the down below, yes.
Oh, yeah. That was Cliff Eberhardt, The High Above and the
That
Down
rocks.
Below. So rocks, right?
I,
And your
I, I haven't
vocals
listened to
on
it.
that. Wow. That song, yeah, your vocals just so there, and that band is so tight. I think we have to talk about who the players are on that, especially
Well,
on
you
that
probably
track,
have
the
it on.
organ. Yeah, I just
That's,
pulled it out actually from my
that's Richie
stack.
Dworsky.
Hmm.
He played
And
piano. He played all the keyboards.
so folks will remember Rich Dworsky from he was led the Prairie Home Companion Band for many years and also worked on Live from Here, and great composer in his own right as well as being a great player. And he was
And a really
actually,
great guy.
yes, and he was actually on our show when we were paying tribute to Peter Ostrushko's record "Heart of the Heartland" after Peter's
Oh,
passing. But yeah, Rich is one of the great talents, and
yeah.
yeah, the organ on that at the end of that is just so
He's
fiery.
also really good to be in the studio with. I mean, there's people that are good in the hang, and there's people that no good in the hang. But this this group of people were just fantastic to hang out with.
Which is good because you, as you said, you just had like a couple very intense days, and if it wasn't
Yeah.
fun, it would. I don't think you would have gotten these performances, even if they were great players. I don't think you would have had the same kind of energy.
No, and I didn't know any of them, which helped. I mean, they were
Mm,
hearing my music for the first time, and I was learning how they played for the first time. And it can be a beautiful thing, or it could be a disaster. But Eric really picked a great band,
yeah, I very
mostly
much agree.
jazz guys. You know?
Yeah, so the other people on here are let's see, we have Gordy Johnson on bass, right?
Hmm.
Again, as you said, great jazz player, and JT Bates, who is like, comes up from the jazz world, but of course he's played with
He rocks. Yeah.
everybody. And these days, even like what he worked on Taylor Swift's last record or something like that.
Oh, he
So
did.
yeah, yeah. So he's one of the drummers these days, and he's based here in the Twin Cities. And then yeah, it was basically the four of you,
That's it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I just saw Gordy's brother, Gordy Johnson's brother, is James Taylor's bass player and a musical arranger, and we
really.
saw him last week at Tanglewood.
Wow, that's awesome. I
Small
didn't
world.
know. Yeah, very small world. And Joe said, I've listened to this about 4 times today, and every time I hear more of the fine touches in those multi-layered, sweet blended instrumental tracks. Can't believe you did it live. And
We did it
I would,
live.
I would echo that. And when you were going into this session, I know you thought this was a rehearsal, so you probably hadn't planned too much out, but had you thought about these arrangements, or did you just pretty much give the raw tracks to the players and see what they came up with?
No, I have a studio in my house, and before I make a record, I always record what I really wanted the feel of it, you know. And so the tracks were pretty much arranged. This is where this part's going to go, and but I mean, I can't play like Rich Jaworski, so I give them a lot of free reign. But the basic tracks were already done and the figures, written.
Yeah, yeah.
But the only overdubs we did was sometimes he played both piano and organ on the same song, so we'd have to go back and put whichever one he wasn't playing. But all the
Excellent.
guitar leads and stuff, they were all done live.
That's also great because I think most people often kind of assume like when you're in the studio, like even if it's the main lead person who's doing the guitar part, doing the lead guitar parts, which isn't always the case, that you're probably going to overdub those like all those hot
Right.
licks. You're just doing it as you're singing it. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, the thing is, I don't know if you ever heard my first record, The Long Road.
Hmm.
There's a duet that I do called The Long Road with Richie Havens, and that was all done live. That song was done live in the studio. It just happened, and we didn't want to touch it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, folks are really loving this. And David joined the party. He said it's hot around here. That's right. Here in Minnesota it is hot, enjoying a Fulton Sweet Child of Vine, and looking forward to the show. And yeah, tell us where you are tuned in from today. If you've joined us for the back catalog listening party, again, this is the show where we invite artists to dig into old records and talk about them. Today, we are revisiting The High Above and the Down Below, recorded in Minneapolis and released in 2007. And Joni says Twin Cities really is a treasure trove of amazing musicians, which I
Get
would
that
agree
right.
with. Being based here in Minneapolis myself. And let's see, we have Ralph saying, hi, Cliffy.
Hi,
Miss you on
Ralph.
Long Island.
And I see my other friends up there.
Mm-hmm. And also,
Phil
and this
Trainer,
is
who I'm going to see next week. I'm teaching at Swannanoa next week, and Phil's always there as the bass player for
wonderful. And
everybody.
yeah, and Swannanoa, for folks who don't know, is maybe you can describe it for folks who don't know what that is.
It's a song and guitar camp that happens at Warren Wilson College in Swannanoa, right outside of Asheville.
Mhm.
And I mean, this year the teachers are Tom Paxton, John Gorka, Janice Ian, Ellis Paul, Vance Gilbert, Laura
Wow.
McAllister. Yeah, and I go every year. I mean, it's usually the same people every year. So basically, I get paid to teach 3 hours a day and hang out with my friends.
Yeah, it's a pretty sweet gig.
It
That's
is a
pretty
really
awesome.
sweet game. I love going there. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year.
Well, that's awesome. A lot of old friends joining us today.
Oh,
Art
Don Henry. Sorry.
Vandelay.
Don
Art
Henry is
Vandelay.
awesome.
That would
Hey,
be
Art.
our good friend Brandon saying hello from
Oh,
St.
yeah.
Paul. And he said one of his favorite albums that he had the honor of working. And, I'd agree. I was a part of the Red House crew during this time, and I had gotten to work with you on a few records, but this one really, I remember when Eric first brought me the tracks to this album. He's like, "Oh, Ellen, you're gonna love this," and he put it on, and we were all just like, "Yeah!" Like cranked it up. It was really, really great. And
I should listen to it again. I hadn't.
well,
I
we're
didn't
gonna
even
listen to
remember
more.
what songs was on it. You know.
Well, we're gonna listen to more tracks right now. In fact, Phil was talking about "Missing You," which I think is our next one we have queued up. So maybe you could.
Good choice, Phil.
Yes, and maybe you could tell us, is there anything you want to say about this song or what went into the writing of it?
Yeah, I brought the song to the session, and Eric said it's too short. You need to write an intro. And I said, you write an intro. I can't just do that. He goes, we're going to go out for lunch. You write an intro. So I actually did write the intro during lunch, and it made the song work a lot better.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to enjoy this together. So listen for that intro, folks, and see what you would think if "Missing You" was missing the intro. So we'll give this a go. This is "Missing You" by Cliff Eberhardt here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I wish I knew someone who remembers what I remember. Someone to tell me all my memories are true. I know that there's something that's been missing from this picture. I think that's something maybe you. Remember when I lived next to the river? Send my dreams right downstream to you. I know it's May, but it feels more like November or December. I guess that I'm just missing you. Lovers come, lovers go. Lovers always think they know they deserve much more than they get. Broken dreams, memories repeat themselves until we see we should give our love and have no regrets. I wish that I could find the words to tell you. Did you ever learn to read between my lines? I'm feeling fine really means I don't know how to, but I want to. I guess that I'm just missing you. I guess that I'm just missing you.
And that was Missing You by Cliff Eberhardt here on the back catalog listening party. Oh, man. So
You know,
beautiful.
that
And
song, what I did on that song, I do it a lot of songs that I write where the verses are all and the intro are all in first person, and the bridge is the philosophy verse, which the
mm.
first person guy never listens to.
I love that. So that's basically a conversation between yourself and like your better
Yes,
angel or something.
you know, like lovers come, lovers go. You know, we should give our love without having regrets. And they go, I'm
No,
thinking
no,
that
I'm
should
not
go
going to do
away.
that.
Yeah, I'm not changing for you.
I love that. And if you are loving it the way Carol is, she said, "Bravo, great intro." And Phil, oof, hurts so good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
agree
know,
with
Phil.
that. If you think this hurts so good and you want to get a copy of it, there are still copies available through redhouserecords.com, now Compass, but they are available at that website. And I think it's
And
even
they're
on
five
sale there.
bucks.
Yeah, on red hot
$5.
clearance. So get yourself a copy, and you won't regret it because I will say also the fidelity on these tracks. Most of you are listening probably, through your phone or earbuds or whatever. And once it goes through all the interwebs, it's not as good. You just want to get those high res
Yeah,
tracks.
I'm always amazed when after a show and I'm selling CDs and people go, "Well, I don't have a CD player anymore." And I go, "You don't have a stereo? You're listening to songs on your computer? How crazy is that?"
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, you can get better speakers and headphones for those devices, but they still have to be good audio to start with, to
Right.
translate that sound.
Absolutely.
So, and Chris asked about recording this album in Minneapolis, and as we had mentioned, Eric Peltonimi, who was heading up Red House Records, it was his idea, but it did mean that you got to be in Minneapolis for a bit
Yeah,
while you
for
recorded
a
it.
week. Yeah, for a
Hmm.
week. I love
And
Minneapolis. I mean, I play there quite often, so
Yeah, and did you have any favorite like haunts or things you enjoyed doing while you were here for a little bit longer than normal?
well, when I'm doing a record, I kind of keep to myself at night. You know, I don't go
Mm,
out and I rest up and go over what I'm going to do the next day and listen to the tracks of the day before. So I really don't. I don't use party as a verb when I'm recording a record.
yeah, it's work, 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 and
It is work. It's a lot of work to make a record.
it is. And so, did you enjoy making the record this way? I know you didn't know you were making the record, as we said. Eric kind of tricked you. You thought you were just doing kind of session rehearsals with the studio musicians, and then ended up using pretty much all those tracks. Did you? Uh, Yeah. I mean, did you feel like after you were done, were you like, really, that's it? Like, is there
Yeah,
something else I should
I
be
wanted to
doing?
redo it just because I was having so much fun doing it. I didn't want it to be like a 2 day session.
Yeah.
Um, we'd rehearsed one afternoon at Chris's house. Um,
Chris Freimeyer?
yeah,
Hmm.
and that's where I got to meet those guys, and we discussed what we wanted to keep from the demos that I had made and what we wanted to change, and then we just went in the next day, and it was one of those bands that really clicked. And I'm kind
Mm.
of it's funny because I probably would have sung differently, but I'm kind of almost over singing on these songs because I'm trying to make sure that they get the emotion of the song and
Hmm.
to play the emotion of the song much more than just the music. They
Well,
got it.
it's interesting you say that because I know you've theater work, and I feel like that's
Yeah,
what this album feels like to me. It makes sense when you say that you were trying to convey the emotion of the song maybe in a more dramatic way than you normally would. But I feel like that's what you do on stage, right? You make the
right.
emotions even
I've
bigger.
always been writing Broadway musicals my whole life, so
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
serious. So
yeah.
that's
No.
why I mean that's how I got those musicals was they heard these records and that's how I got the
Yeah.
gig.
Well, and that earlier you mentioned that you had seen like Randy Newman when you were young and people like that. And I feel like this record in particular really has that kind of classic feel to it. Has that feel of that kind of those Randy Newman songs. Um,
Well, my whole life I've studied songs and I figured out even when I was young, I would listen to songs like, why am I attracted to this song? What makes this song special? And a lot of times it was actually what they were doing musically and just the right turn of, of a note or a special chord that was inserted. So I really studied how songs were written for a long time, and I still do. You know,
mhm. Yeah, I would imagine even when you're at places like Swannanoa or touring with folks like John Gorka and Patty Larkin and all the folks from On a Winter's Night that just by hearing other people doing what they're doing who do it well
yeah, it's a
from your
pretty amazing
peers.
show.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
tell
there's a lot of love going on in that group.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that because you brought that back this year and it wasn't just in the winter time. Am I right about that?
No, it was January, February, and March.
Hmm.
It was kind of me, John, and Patty, John Gorka and Patty Larkin were always in it. And the fourth position switched between Christine Lavin, Lucy Kaplansky, and Cheryl Wheeler, none of whom suck.
Yeah. You're going to get something fantastic, but totally different flavors
It
depending
was
on who.
very, very different. And then we did one show with just one. No, we did two with me, Patty, Christine, and Cheryl Wheeler. Christine
Mm.
Lavin and Cheryl Wheeler. And
Oh, I
that was,
bet you
I
were
called it,
laughing a ton at that show.
oh, I called it Three Bitchin' Babes and One Son of a Bitch.
I won't ask who was which, but
I was the only guy in the group.
oh, that's fun. That's great. And hopefully they'll come. I hope that comes back through the Twin Cities one of these days
Well,
because
we're
they,
booked on the East Coast next February. I don't know what else is happening, but we're going
okay.
out in February.
Well, this is a good time to mention then that the best place to learn more about you and your music is by going to your website, which is cliffeberhardt.net, right? And
Yeah,
I'm gonna put this.
somebody stole the .com.
Yeah, come on, give it back to Cliff.
No,
So you can
well,
check out his tour dates and some of your other recordings.
well, I have
Um,
a new recording.
yeah, so tell us a little bit about that.
It's called New Things, spelt with a K, like canoe things. Um, and I recorded it during the pandemic here, where I play everything on the record.
Mm.
So it took up a whole year of time, because I'm not the best player on every instrument. So, but it was good that I did that. I wrote some of the songs during the pandemic, and then I did everything in my home studio. And because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, it took me a long, a whole year.
Well, yeah, so I think that's a good pandemic project to work on a record. So where you said that are playing all the instruments. So were there any instruments that you really had to spend some time brushing up on or maybe like learn for the first time for this?
Well, not really. I mean, I've always played keyboards, and I've always played bass, and I've always played lap steel and dobro. So I had them all pretty much down.
Hmm.
The bass is hard because it's much more composed than any other instrument. You have to find. Well, Phil Trainer could tell us all about that. You just have to be a lot more harmonic on the bass than you are on any other instrument.
Mm,
Or you
that
could
makes
just
sense.
double everything and it sounds like mush.
Right, right. If you want to do something good, it takes some work.
Yeah, because you're all like if you're playing keyboards and bass and guitar and you're all in the key of C, it can get really muddy in there if you're not playing different voicings.
Phil says next time call me.
Yeah. I wanted to be alone.
Yeah, during COVID, that was the tough thing, right? Being separated from all the great players.
Yeah, I was home. I mean, we went out to do On a Winter's Night this January, but I'd been home for 2 years. I didn't leave. I
Yeah.
was ordering my food, and that was tough. And then going back out was really tough. We hadn't seen each other in 2 years, and it was very emotional.
Mhm.
I remember we our first gig was in Mamaroneck, New York. That one was with Lucy, I think. And I walked out of stage and just started crying.
Mhm.
I never realized how much I missed it.
Mhm.
Until you spend 2 years not doing it,
Yeah.
and it gets your, I think everybody felt like we didn't see this coming, and you can't prepare for it, and it's like I'll never take another show for granted as long as I live. I'll never
Mhm.
be. Well, Thursday night I'm in Minneapolis, so I can play this place, and no,
Mhm.
every show is really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd second that, and I'm sure everyone on this show understands that the power of live music. And speaking of that, Gary said he used to live in Texas and saw you at the Kerrville Folk Festival, one of the great songwriting festivals.
I'm
Speaking of,
playing there this fall. I'm doing
oh,
the
cool.
fall festival. Yeah,
Nice. Nice, nice.
yeah.
Well, I know Alan, who's tuned in from Texas, lives in that neck of the woods. So Alan, you should check out Cliff at the Fall Kerrville Folk Festival. And right now, we want to dig into some more tunes. I want to share more of this record. We had a few people who are all excited and were requesting different tracks. Again, we're in the tracks that Cliff chose today. So the next song we're going to play is The Next Big Thing. Is there anything you want to say about this song?
Well, this is a mashup of like Paris Hilton and the Kardashians. People who were famous for doing nothing. It's weird when you have the only thing that your only claim to fame is that you're famous. You
Right.
don't have any talent. You don't do movies. You don't do records. You're just this thing. And so, yeah, it was a pretty easy song to write.
Okay, well, here is Cliff's take on famous people who are famous for we're not sure what. This
For
is the next
nothing.
for nothing. Uh, a song about being famous for nothing. This is Cliff Eberhardt with The Next Big Thing here on the back catalog list.
Watch where you're going. Better turn the page. Hey, your slip is showing. Never act your age. I got the heart of a lion. It's from living long. Sometimes when you're trying, still things go wrong. Everything changes. I wanted to spring. I'm gonna wait right here for the next big thing. See the girl on the TV, she's a great big star. She never made a movie, she can't play guitar. It's all about her image, it's about the clothes she wears. But in about 1 minute, no one will care. You can't read the future in the diamond ring. I'm gonna wait right here for the next big thing, yeah.
All right. That
What a
was
band, man.
what a band. And you know what I really love about that is like, the interplay between the piano and the organ is so great, and it's hard to believe that was both Rich, because that was the only part
Yeah,
that wasn't live, was him doing that stuff at the
right.
same time.
The drums are just ridiculous on that song.
And by the way, I don't want to discount or make sure that folks know again, that's you playing that righteous guitar lick. And
Yeah.
did the song start with that lick? Because it feels such like it's such a part of the melody in the song.
I think probably I came up with the lick first.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, I remember reading an interview with John Lennon, and he said, "Well, I just screw around on the guitar, I just start playing things and see what comes out." And I was like, "Well, that sounds like a good plan." So I do that a lot, where I just come up with a lick and then the song finds it.
Hmm. And yeah, do you, is it part of your regular practice to just like play the guitar every day,
Oh
or,
yeah, I play every
or
day.
and do you write every day too?
No,
Hmm.
um, I don't write. I mean, when I'm doing plays, I've done 2 plays. Then I write a lot. 40 or 50 songs for every play, and they choose
Wow.
10 or 12 out of them. So I go every day to work. I go into town and go to a library or a coffee shop and work every day. It's weird now that there's no record companies and there's no publishing and there's no radio station, and it's a different world. So I'm not writing as I write when I want to, not when I have to.
Hmm.
I mean, it was so great when either Bob Feldman or Eric would call me up and go, "It's been 2 years. You got to make a record." And then
Right, it was
you'd
like a
be,
reminder, right? Like, "Oh, yeah,
yeah,
I
you'd
should put
be,
out a
I better start writing.
record."
Somebody's got to write the damn songs. So.
Yeah, and, well, and that's an interesting question, because you are such a prolific writer, and that's what you got into this for, as you said, was to write songs. Um, but, I've heard you do covers in your shows.
Uh-huh.
What is it, what is it that makes you think, "Oh, yeah, maybe I wanna record this song," or does that not usually happen?
I never approach songs with having a place to put them. I think that jinxes the song.
Mm.
So I don't think this will go in an album, or I'm going to play this next time I play, or I'm going to
Mhm.
play this for so and so. I just I just do the song and see what it looks like after it's done.
Hmm.
And a lot of time I let other people, Eric had a lot of say under what songs went on that album. I had a bunch of other songs
Mhm.
that he just felt that this was a good combination. He was right. It was a good mixing of songs.
Mhm.
But usually I have to have some kind of purpose to write. Making an
Mm.
album or doing a play, that kind of thing. And when I
Yeah.
had a publishing deal, they would call me up and they go, "Well, Joe Cocker needs a song." So, you'd
So
write
you're
a Joe
writing
Cocker
for
song.
Joe. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, again, I would imagine that theater background comes in handy for something like that, because like you're literally kind of putting yourself in that position of like, okay, well, what would Joe Cocker sing?
Well, I didn't do a play until 10 years ago was the first play I did.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, 2012 at the Folger Theater in Washington D.C. So that was nice because I got to live in Washington for 6 months.
Hmm.
And then the
Yeah.
last play was at the Getty Villa in Malibu. So um,
Not too
I,
bad.
no, they put me up in my own apartment in Venice Beach, a half a block from the beach. So it didn't suck.
Nice.
It was great.
Yeah. Well, Chris,
Nobody wanted to visit me when I was doing the play in Washington, but everybody wanted to visit me in Malibu.
exactly. Well, Chris says, how could you write 40 or 60 songs for a show? I can barely write one. Well, Chris, it starts with one. So, like, and I don't know, does writing songs you've been doing it so long, Cliff, does it get easier, or is it just harder because you're more of a critic and you've
It's
done so
hard
many
work.
songs? Mm.
Writing a song is hard work. You got to
Yeah.
really be present. And for the show, they would have a scene, let's say, where the director would call me up and go, "We need a song for this scene for this." I could never write what was happening in the play. I'd have to write like the emotional weather report. So
Hmm.
sometimes I would write 3 or 4 songs for the same scene, just different takes on that scene,
Hmm.
and they would choose one from those.
And so
They
did
were
any
like
of those
disposable songs.
Yeah, did any of those songs that you wrote that didn't get used for the show get used anywhere else? Like, do you ever perform them out, or did they just kind of
Yeah,
fall by the wayside?
there's a song on my new album. I have a lot of the songs from the last Play the Heel on the new album, and one of the songs that didn't make it into play is on the album, which I
Cool.
thought
That's
should have been in the play.
awesome. Well, okay, so folks, I shared Cliff's website earlier, and you can get this new album that he was just talking about, New Things, and you can check out that song. And what was the song on there, Cliff? That on the new
It's
album?
called, what is it called? Um, Pay for the Things That You Do.
Okay, cool.
And I just got a big hey there, Cliff from Deirdre McCullough, who I used
Yes.
to hang out with in the village. Lovely, lovely person. Great. She has a new album out,
She does, and she was actually on the show just a few weeks ago here on Back Catalog Listening
which
Party.
she's on here right now.
Such a delight. Hi, Deirdre, and we're so happy you've joined us. And for all of you out there listening, if you came a little late to the party, we're still going to get to another song or two from this 2007 Cliff Eberhardt release. But again, if you like what you hear, do throw something in that tip jar. I share the link. We'll get it up here again so that you can throw something in Cliff's tip jar. He's starting to tour again, so he's gonna have to fuel up the tank. So there it is, and you can
Well,
help
things aren't
him
back
out
to
that.
things aren't back to where it's regular playing
No,
for any of
no,
us.
yeah,
I
no,
have two more
definitely.
shows this summer. Is it?
Well, we are going to try and dig into some more music, and folks can take that opportunity to throw something in the PayPal or the Venmo tip jar. This next track that you picked is The Right Words. Is there anything you want to say about this song?
Yeah, they made an album of that songwriting group that I was in called the Cornelia Street Song Exchange. They made a record in like 1979 and 1980. It's Lucy and me and David Massico, Rod McDonald, and this was one of the songs I wrote for that album. And I'd always wanted to put it on an album, and for some reason, producers and record company people didn't like it. And I played it for Eric, and he was like, "That would be perfect for this record because it's a jazzy tune." So
Excellent. Well, we're going to enjoy this together. This is Cliff Eberhardt with The Right Words here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
You made it sound clever. You made it sound like a joke. You hid it in silence. You disguised it in smoke. It took me a long time to see. You never say quit. You never say die. You never found the right words to tell me goodbye. You left it all up to me. Kiss me goodnight. I'm taking it lightly. I'm taking the next bus I see. I can see in your eyes this means goodbye, and still you never found the right words to say to me. take the bed, I'll pack my clothes, I'll trade you the TV for the stereo. I never thought we'd end up this way. So say goodbye, say la vie, say why'd you grow so tired of me? Say what I want you to say. Kiss me goodnight, taking it lightly, I'm taking the next bus I see. I can see in your eyes this means goodbye, and still you never found the right words to say to me.
All right. Cliff Eberhardt here on the back catalog listening party. With the right words. And yeah, this song, like so many on the record, and also like that cover, it just has a timeless feel. Like that song could have been written 60 years ago, or could have been
It
written
just about
yesterday.
was. I wrote it in 1979.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. Wow. Well, I mean,
yeah,
but I feel like it has that kind of American songbook feel. Like it could
right.
have been. It's just has, yeah, it kind of exists outside of time in a way, and all those
Well,
emotions are things we all feel. That doesn't
it's
go
the
away.
only song on the album I don't play on.
Hmm. Yeah, and that
So that took
piano.
a lot of trust to
Yeah.
have Richie do everything.
And is it weird for you being such a great guitar player, and of course, whenever you perform out, it's you and your guitar, um, and you've been a side guitarist for a lot of people, so guitar is like kind of a big part of you as a performer. Did you feel weird just singing without the guitar?
Well, I did a song on my second album where I had my piano player Seth Farber just play. It's just piano and me.
Hmm.
So I kind of wanted to do that just to have a different kind of emotional feel without
Hmm.
having the guitar on everything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would agree with Joni. Cinematic, I would agree. And that's how I feel about a lot of these songs. They feel like scenes from something.
I've been trying to get plays my whole life.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, I don't know about you, but I think we can squeeze in this last tune if you're game for it, because I want to get to at least one more track because we've had so many requests for different things.
Okay.
So if you're game, I want to play, and also I personally really love this last song, so I wanted to make sure we got to it. It's home everywhere I go. Is there anything you want to say about this track before we listen?
I wrote it when I arrived in Minneapolis to do this record. I wrote the night before we started
Hmm.
doing the record. So it was kind
Wow,
of,
brand new,
yeah. I was
awesome.
sitting in a hotel room, so I decided to write about being on the road. That's about as deep as it gets.
Well, here it is, Cliff Eberhardt getting deep here on It's Home Everywhere I Go on the back catalog listening party.
Reading the paper, drinking some wine, and I'm wishing I had a smoke, but I should not wish for things that I just can't have. in the back roads, taking my time, and I'm wishing you were here with me. Because after you, I took up with her, and I'm only shagging up with me. Taking her to Tacoma, to Tulsa, Oklahoma. So many times I've known, and I know it sounds strange, I'm at home on the range. It's home everywhere I go. I left them and loved them, put myself above them. I guess they did the same with me. But if all's fair in love, who appointed you judge? We only need a referee. Bluebell to Blue Hill, Neverland and Nowheresville. You couldn't find me with a fine tooth comb. But every day something new. I have a room with a view. It's home everywhere I go. It's home everywhere I go.
All right, it's home everywhere I go, Cliff Eberhardt. And I have to say, I feel like on all these tracks, I'm always waiting for that last bit of like organ to fade out. Um, but man, I that groove on that song, the interplay of like the bass and the piano and everything is just they killed. But
It was a great band.
my favorite line though, still on this whole record, and there's a lot of them, is "I used to be broke, but now I'm broke." That's just I love that so
That
much.
I had written up to I used to be broken. I'm trying to think of a rhyme for broken. I went, I have to put in that I'm still broke. So
Exactly. It's just genius. It's sometimes I think folks maybe try a little too hard and then it's like, no, actually the simplest, most straightforward way is sometimes the best. And I would agree with
absolutely.
this Joe here. It's amazing how when the organ comes in, it's so soft but gives the whole feel a real lift. But um so Cliff, I can't
Yes,
believe we don't
Ellen.
have I don't can't believe we don't have more time to do more songs, but unfortunately, this is the end of the hour. So, I want to encourage folks because I know Joe was asking me about Assembly Line. Carol was asking for After the Rain Falls. So, folks who want to check out all these great tracks, because every track is a winner in my book, will have to buy the record. Go to redhouserecords.com, and the link is there in the comments. And to check out Cliff's new album, New Things. You can go to his website, cliffeberhart.net. And Cliff, is there anything else coming up that folks should know about?
Well, I'm playing the 31st of July. I'm playing in Asheville, North Carolina, and the details are on my website. And then on the 2nd, I'm playing at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville.
Excellent. Wonderful. And you can check out all those dates at cliffeberhart.net, wherever you are tuned in from. Cliff might be playing there because, as we just heard in that last song, he's on the road quite a bit, or he's starting to be now. And thanks to all of you for tuning into the show today. If you liked the episode with Cliff Eberhardt in this conversation, you can share it with your friends. It will be archived on YouTube. You can also like it, give it the thumbs up, and direct more bots to Cliff Eberhardt. I always get the directions wrong. So that more folks can check out his music. And if you like the show, if you're new to the show, we do this every week. Sadly, not with Cliff every week, but with other great guest
You
artists.
could do it every week with me.
I
I
could.
don't
You
do it a
have
whole
enough
lot.
material. We'll
Yeah.
definitely be having you back because you have plenty
Well,
of back
good.
catalog to explore.
Good.
So we would love that. And I know my partner in crime, Tony Ihrig, who couldn't be here today, who was very sad about that, would love to chat with you about these records because he'd be all over it.
Cool.
So we'll definitely have to have you back. But in the meanwhile, again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I also want to thank all of you for joining us and for Cliff for joining us because we couldn't do this without the artists who are willing to listen to their old records, which any musician will tell you is completely weird and embarrassing to listen to your own music, especially in front of other people. So we appreciate Cliff for taking time to do that. And we especially want to thank our Patreon folks. These are the folks who have kept the show going long past. We thought we'd do this for a couple of weeks when things shut down, but we're still going 118 episodes in. Penny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead, Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Craig, Jake, Mary, Many Tracks, and Nikki, and maybe you. If you want to get in on this action and support the back catalog listening party, get invited to cool after parties, online shows, and stuff like that, you can join us there. But mainly, thank you for joining us because this is what it's about. It's about music, conversation, hanging with friends, and making new friends. And Cliff, I've known you. I was realizing, I was like, I've known you for at least 18 years, which
Right.
is crazy. But
Right.
but it's been a while since I've seen you or talked to you. I
Yeah.
can't.
I think it was at the Halloween thing at Ginkgo was the last time I saw
Oh
you.
no, it must have been more recently. Probably at a Focal Alliance. I'm sure we must have crossed
Well, I
paths
haven't
at
been to
some
any
point.
Focal Alliance for
Oh,
over 10 years.
well then maybe it has been that.
Yeah.
So if you want to see a funny photo of me wearing a witchy wig singing with Cliff Eberhardt in St. Paul, you can check that out on the Mother Banjo Facebook page. And but again, thank you so much, Cliff, for
Well, thank you,
taking
Ellen. I've had
time.
a really good time, and it's really good to see you.
It is really good to see you, and hopefully we'll see each other next time in person,
I
face
hope
to
so.
face.
All right.
Okay. Well, everyone have a great weekend. Cheers, and we'll see you back next week for another edition of the Back Catalog Listening Party. Have a great weekend.